a new perspective.
A lot of individuals are not being represented by basically city council or government.
Leadership that will shape the city we call home.
Beaumont is my home. I love Beaumont.
3 candidates, all vying for the chance to lead.
I could see a whole new downtown opening up for Beaumont.
Mayor Robin Mouton running to keep her seat. Challengers Roy West and James Eller Jr. looking to take the city in a new direction, each with a unique background and viewpoint for where the city should go next. Now, it's your turn to ask the questions live from the 12 News Studios. The 2023 Mayoral Debate, deciding Beaumont's future.
Good evening, Southeast Texas. Thank you for joining us for the Beaumont Mayoral Debate live from the 12 News Studios. I'm Brenda Matute.
And I'm Jordan Williams. Over the next hour, we will hear from the 3 candidates running for mayor, hear their ideas about the future of our city.
That's right. We'll be discussing a variety of topics from race and diversity to infrastructure and economic development. The candidates will have 1 minute to answer the questions during this candidate forum section. Many of the questions came from you guys at home. The others from our editorial staff here at 12 News. Now, none of the candidates have received these questions in advance.
And in just about 25 minutes, the candidates will have the chance to debate one another. We'll get to those rules in a bit, but first, let's meet the candidates, starting with incumbent Mayor Robin Mouton. Ms. Mouton was elected to her first term as mayor in 2021 after a long tenure on the Beaumont City Council. Mayor, we welcome you.
We also have Beaumont businessman Roy West. He ran against Mouton back in 2021 and made it into a runoff election with her. We welcome you, Mr. West.
Thank you.
And welcome to community advocate and contractor James Eller Jr. Mr. Eller previously ran for an at-large city council seat in the 2021 election. Mr. Eller, it's good to have you here as well tonight.
Thank you.
All right, let's get straight to the questions tonight. We'll begin with one about city leadership. This question is for each of you. Beaumont always seems on the cusp of greatness, but never seems to quite get there. What is the first thing that you will do as mayor to make Beaumont not only a great place to live, but a destination for others to visit? Let's start with you, Mayor Mouton.
Well, thank you. I would just like to say that being mayor, I have already begun that work so that people will know that Beaumont is a great city. We're excited about everything that's happening in Beaumont. Beaumont right now is on an upward momentum, and the momentum is that we are revitalizing downtown Beaumont. In addition to revitalizing downtown Beaumont, there are so many great opportunities that we have in store. Right now, we have one of the largest OCI plant expansions in the history of our city. In addition to that, downtown has revitalized all of the paintings and murals downtown Beaumont, and we have the largest permits in the history of this great city, permitting 3 brand new restaurants in downtown Beaumont. Looking forward to the Riverfront, and so with Riverfront groundbreaking, we look forward to all of the new amenities coming forward.
Thanks so much, Mayor. Let's move on to Mr. Eller on making Beaumont a great place to live and visit.
Yes. Well, I really want to bring back, like I say, I've spoken before about compassion, leaving hardships alone with the city. There's different permits and there's different avenues that we don't have to take with our administration, especially, or just with council in a way. I would see basically more growth and sharing, like I say, compassion with the citizens. It's mainly about, my generation seemed like it was maybe the last generation to have the watch over your neighbors, sit on the front porch, talk to your neighbors, be friends with your neighborhood. It's distance now. We have more crime, we have more the disillusions going on. I don't see really just getting away from what we have. Like we've been progressing with like art and whatnot, but I see that we need to address more infrastructure issues, more small things like sidewalks across the railroad tracks. In it.
All right, Mr. Eller, thank you. Finally, over to you, Mr. West, same question. Making Beaumont a great place to live and visit. Your thoughts?
Well,
we just have to acknowledge that we live in a great place already, but we as a community need to work better together, and we need to come together. And I believe that this is how we're going to make Beaumont more attractive across the state of Texas and across this nation, because if we all work together as a city and school district and university, and with business and our 501c3s, we're gonna do well in this community. It's going to be a more attractive community because, again, people like to go where they are welcome, and they know that people enjoy their presence. And I know that Beaumont is a great place. We know how to show up for one another when we have storms, and we just as a city, as an entity, need to be better.
All right, thanks so much, Mr. West. We're gonna move on to the second question. It's also about city leadership. Now, a viewer asked this question about teamwork. As mayor, what will you do to build a strong relationship with members of city council and work together to get the job done? Mr. West, we're going to begin with you this time.
Well, I've been in business for a long time here, and teamwork makes the dream work. And I've found that in the mortgage business, we have to work with lots of different people, and it's always about dealing with the challenges that you exist. And every day there are problems, there are challenges, and it's how you respond. And I've learned that when you go to the problems and you begin discussing them and work with the others that are present there, and they see that you too care. And obviously when you're working with everybody else on council, we all have a different windshield that we've seen through life. So it's important to hear from one another and be willing to be changed by the dialogue that's happening. And I know that in business, that's what I've learned to do through my radio show, and certainly through all my relationships in life. So it is important to build trust and unity and respect with the others that you work with.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Eller, I'd pose the same question to you about building a relationship with council.
I understand that there's difficulties. We're all human, and we're trying to get the same goal accomplished, basically taking care of the citizens, correct? So we need to reach across the table, make sure that we're working for that common goal. We don't need to carry our personal griefs towards each other, bring them to council, because the only thing that matters is actually the city's point of view for the citizens. Like I say, the betterment for the citizens is all the ultimate goal is. So the hardships we just need to forgive and work for that purpose. That's the main thing that we need to be doing.
All right, thank you, sir. Our next topic here is economic development. The bulk of our viewers' questions were on this topic. It's taken 6 years for City Council to approve and start repairs at Riverfront Park. What role can Riverfront Park play in the revitalization of downtown? And would you support any additional amenities? Mayor Mouton, let's start with you.
Thank you. It's a great question. I would like to say Riverfront Park is going to be the catalyst of downtown Beaumont. It's going to make a new, brand new downtown Beaumont. I believe it's going to put Beaumont on the map. I'm excited about Riverfront Park. In doing the groundbreaking a couple of weeks ago, so many people brought back ideals and things of reminiscing of just being downtown at Riverfront Park. Looking at Riverfront Park and seeing all of the beautiful restaurants that can be there. In addition to restaurants, I see an amphitheater. I also see one of the great ideas that I would like to bring is a Ferris wheel, because if you're coming across that Rainbow Bridge and you see a beautiful Ferris wheel, it's going to draw you to downtown Beaumont. So I'm really, really excited about rebuilding the riverfront and revitalizing downtown Beaumont.
All right, thank you so much, Mayor. I'm going to move on. That same question to you, Mr. West, on revitalizing downtown via Riverfront Park.
Well, to revitalize downtown, we need to have a strategic plan, and certainly having Riverfront Park is a big asset, and we've certainly had it for years in the past, and because of Harvey, it's been unusable for the last 6 years. But so in terms of decisions that we make, I know as a business person, you have to plan and then you have to have a timeline. And you know, you don't want to vacillate on what you're going to be doing, and you also need to share it with the community, because you need that community buy-in, and you need to get with your business leaders, your community leaders across the entire city. And and be aware of what their needs and wants are, and listen, have the public hearings, because this isn't decisions that should be made by council alone. It is the community's park, it is downtown, and we would all love to see a thriving downtown.
All right, thanks so much, Mr. West. We're going to stick with downtown development tonight. Now, Mayor Mouton, this question is for you. There's been so much back and forth over the future of the AT&T building. City Council voted to tear it down, then that was halted. What's the status of the property and what's your vision for the site?
Well, during the time that I was running for mayor, there were some decisions that were made. And so while those decisions were made to tear it down originally, and then after I got on, became mayor, that changed. And so at this point, we're looking at tearing that building down. We're looking to building a conference hotel that will sit on the river, that will sit downtown. We have a civic center that can accommodate a conference, but we don't have a conference hotel. So without a conference hotel, you cannot accommodate any groups or organizations with the conference. And so with that building coming down, we're looking forward to building a beautiful conference hotel with 5-star dining.
All right, before we move on, I actually want to follow up. Now, we heard about the conference hotel. What are your plans, or where in the plans to get that here are you guys as a city council?
Well, right now, we met just on Tuesday with a planner in our executive session. And so as soon as we get all of the details, we will be presenting this plan to the city, because it is part of our strategic plan to move this city forward.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, this next question is for you, Mr. Eller. Transparency, it's become a big part of your campaign. You have pushed the city council to change its policy regarding access to body cameras, and you have questioned the city's access to open records. If you're elected mayor, what is the first thing that you would change to increase transparency?
You know, I know one vote can't change everything, but a hand going up will. So you let the citizens know what you're voting on. You let the citizens know what everybody else is or not going to vote on at that point by just raising your hand and putting your name on the record, basically your opinion. I really want to push for the transparency of that. People throw around the ideal or the naming or word about transparency like it's, you know, they don't understand it fully. But we really need to have the best of the best, and the only way we can have the citizens trust us is have transparency. Letting them know that we actually have the best officers, the best, you know, government here locally, because we care to be open records. We care to be transparent to the citizens. Whenever they ask for something, we give it. Just like in Sunshine or at the Sunshine, Florida Department, Police Department, they have a sunshine law, basically, that everything viewed under the sun is open to the public. So that's what we should have here. It's that easy to say. It's that easy to do.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your response. Mr. West, this one is for you. Is there a specific industry you would like to attract in order to foster more economic diversity? And what would you do as mayor to lure companies to our area?
We're certainly being attractive to business is very important, and you have to do that as a city. And you know, the petrochemical industry is so important here in Southeast Texas and been such an economic engine, and will continue to be for a long time. We need to leverage that capital and bring in technology companies. You know, we're talking about downtown growth and expansion. One way to do that is by tax incentives and making it more attractive for outside businesses to come to Southeast Texas. And working with our university system and LIT and our local schools, we can provide an awesome workforce for them, and the cost of living here is lower, and we have great opportunities ahead, I believe.
Thank you, sir. Let's stick with the local economy and pivot to a question from Mr. Eller. This viewer asks, so many buildings in downtown Beaumont are owned by the same person, but little development is happening. How would you shake things up to bring more downtown?
I don't know what council is willing to do as a whole. There's many individuals that are on council that actually know the building owners. I mean, these are, you know, millionaires or thousandaires at the point that they invest in Beaumont, and a lot of people say as a tax haven, just to leave their tax bases here basically and leaving the empty buildings. We have like the former Workforce Solutions Center, windows bust out, third floor on fire before. It's not even red tagged. Now, anybody's home would be red tagged at this point. What are we doing, and why are we allowing these individuals to just sit on these buildings and not develop them? We need to push them along one way or another. I'm not sure if it's legal or if it's just trying to give them some kind of incentive, or to let them be part of the process of building a better Beaumont downtown area, like small businesses, renting out small spots at the bottom of their buildings. Some of them are skyscrapers or taller buildings. So maybe it's something along those lines.
All right, thank you, Mr. Eller. And I pose the same question to you, Mr. West, on shaking things up downtown.
Well, it all begins with relationships, and you know, building a relationship and helping find out what they need, and also offering tax incentives and other things. I mean, we have buildings that are downtown that are falling apart, and certainly an eyesore. When we talk about downtown development, we have to be dealing with that. And as downtown develops, it also enhances the value of all the properties around it. So we have to figure out how to make those short-term gains in order to improve that, and work with our local property owners, because they do own the property. So we have to find out a way to move them forward to help it make Beaumont be more attractive.
All right, thank you, Mr. West. We're going to turn now to public safety. In 2022, violent crime dropped in Beaumont by about 21%. Yet, Beaumont still has a high rate of crime. It often ranks as one of the top dangerous cities in Texas. What would you do to address violent crime? Mayor Mouton, we're going to start with you.
Thank you. Well, right now we are addressing it. We have 11 vacancies on the police department. We're offering incentives for new officers to be hired. With those incentives, we're hoping to fill that gap. Also, in the new budget that we're working on, the upcoming budget, I would like to increase the budget so that we can even hire even more officers. As you know, there's no city that's free of crime. It would be a wonderful place to live where there is no crime. But I would say that our Beaumont Police Department does a great job in what they do on the police force. Unfortunately, you're not going to ever be right in the perfect position whenever the crime is being committed. But I will say that we have a great police department, and they are doing the work that we need them to do to cut crime.
Mr. Eller, same question to you. What would you do to address violent crime?
I'm an admin on Facebook's Crime Watch Beaumont, Texas. So I see a lot of reports about BPD and stopping crime. And I don't think that it's really on the BPD side, because you can always stop crime, but let's prevent it, right? So how are we going to prevent crime? I'm about to actually start training for a correctional officer over there at Stiles or the GIS unit. So I would love to start up a program, and you have to stop individuals in prison or in jail and educate them, give them trades. If not, individuals that are coming right back out of the system, they're coming back home with no trades, nothing to do, so they're back into the same environment, breaking laws and committing crimes. If we can address that, that's one big thing. If we can reach out to schools and get more involved with schools, having training for students and showing pride and promise with training, practicing in the city for like development of building signs and whatnot, we can develop with BISD to increase pride with our students.
All right, thank you, Mr. Eller. Now, if you were elected mayor, Mr. West, how would you address violent crime?
Well, I'm a big believer in Beaumont Police and the fine job that they do. So I think our officers do a terrific job. And that is reactive policing. We need to do more things to prevent it from occurring. And I've talked about throughout my campaign youth initiatives, because we have so many forgotten youth in our community. And when you're visiting neighborhood associations, you know, we're hearing about kids pulling on door handles all night long. We need to have programs to engage these youth so that they have other things students to do. And that will make a difference in the schools too. And so we need to partner as a youth coalition with our schools and our university and our churches to reach out to these kids, offering mentorship opportunities, athletic programs. There are so many ways we can help serve our youth and help curb violence, because certainly violent crime and the just petty theft is committed by so many of our youth, and we've seen that grow not just here in Beaumont, Texas, but across the nation, because this is a national problem.
Mr. West, thank you. A 12 News viewer asked this next question after we aired a story about term limits. Some current council members say they support term limits, believing it will ensure a fresh perspective, while others on council who oppose them say the city loses out on important institutional knowledge. So, what are your thoughts on term limits? We'll start with Mr. West.
Well, go to voteroywest.com and you'll see it there. I am for term limits. We've had people serve many years on city council, and you know, we have a declining population here. So we need to engage the youth. We need to be more open across the board, because that is how we're going to improve. I know sometimes people say, well, you lack council experience. I absolutely lack council experience, and I think that's a good thing, because I think how our council has proceeded in years past, we need to change. We see that change is necessary. So term limits are important, and I think if I become elected mayor, which I hope to, that will be certainly something that I push for.
Are you willing to elaborate on what the term limit would be?
Well, I would have to work with council on whatever that would look like, but I think certainly 8 to 10 years would sound sufficient to me.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to pose that same question, Mayor Mouton, to you. Your thoughts on term limits?
Well, I'm not opposed to term limits. I believe that I would love to see 3 4-year terms, and then after 3 4-year terms, I would like to see staggered, so that you would not lose all of your experienced council members or mayor all in one election. I would look at voting for maybe mayor and at large voting at one time, and then the ward councils to have a different voting cycle, because you don't ever want to lose all of your experienced council members or mayor all in at one time.
All right, thank you so much, Mayor. Now, Mr. Eller, this next question is for you, and it's our final question in this round. So many other cities in Texas offer a free and easily accessible recycling program. As mayor, what would you do to help make recycling here easier?
Unfortunately, the recycling program that we had a while back, it's a good little while back now, my mom actually was heavily involved with it and showing me how to recycle and whatnot. It failed, then it turned to waste management, then you had to pay a fee. If we had more of a collection site all around Beaumont, if we had specific rules and also a way to get out the trash and label it a little bit better, or the recycling to label it a little bit better and let people know what it's actually doing, we could push forward with programs to, educate all the way from students on up. We have the DARE program, programs for drug use for students. If we can push recycling, starting at youth, then it's sort of ingrained inside students as they get older until adults, and then they're the taxpayers in the city. So like I say, starting young and giving more accessibility to different sites. Just bringing it over to, like it used to be Gulf Coast recycling over on Cedar or Orange Street. That one location wouldn't have done just for all of City of Beaumont.
Okay, Mayor, same question to you. As I recall, you were on the council in 2019 or so when the most recent program ended. Your thoughts?
Well, I would love to partner with BISD and doing a citywide partnership, BISD and the city, on recycling. I believe it's very important to any city to recycle. Also, I would look at partnering with also some of the other trash companies so that we would have the necessary containers so that it could be picked up and get the whole city and all of the community involved in recycling. because I believe it's important to the environment.
Thank you. We really appreciate all of your insightful responses in this first round, we'll call it, of our forum. We're going to take a quick pause and continue the conversation live.
That's right. Coming up in just 2 minutes, we'll have more of your questions at home. And in this next round, the floor will be open up to debate. Stick with us.
And welcome back to the Beaumont mayoral debate live from our 12 News studios. I'm Jordan Williams.
And I'm Brenda Matute. Let's jump back into your questions. Now, as we open the floor for debate, the candidates have been briefed on our debate rules, but we wanted to offer a reminder before we begin this portion. The candidates who has been selected to answer the debate question will have 1 minute to answer their question. The two other candidates have 30 seconds each for a rebuttal, and then the original candidate will have an additional 30 seconds for a final response. We do have a floor manager here keeping time, and Jordan and I are prepared to stop you once your time is up.
They're doing great so far on the time, right? Okay, this first question will begin with Ms. Mouton. The Beaumont Firefighters Union is concerned about EMS shortages. The union president blames city leaders, saying they're not being supportive. This issue emerged as campaign season began. How would you respond to people who feel this is politically motivated? And what are your thoughts on emergency response times in Beaumont?
Thank you. Emergency response times are being fulfilled by the Beaumont Fire Department, the EMS. This did not come up until the election started. However, we have been in negotiations with the fire department and the union for some time. What a lot of citizens don't know is that the fire department has filed 2 lawsuits against the city. And so with filing those 2 lawsuits, it left us unable to negotiate with a lot of the requests that the union was asking. And so with that being said, being in litigation, it had our hands tied. But prior to that, we made every effort possible to make sure that we were doing everything that we could do to comply.
All right, thanks so much, Mayor. Now on emergency response in Beaumont and EMS shortages, Mr. West, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Well, I've received the fire and paramedic endorsement. And the reason I have is I did an open records request, and we do have a problem. We have a public health crisis here, and it's brought about by the fact that we have a hiring shortage. We don't have enough EMS and firefighters out there. We need more, and we haven't changed hiring practices. It's been suggested for a long time, but the hiring practices have stayed the same. We just need to look at those.
Okay, Mr. Eller, over to you, 30 seconds.
At one point in time, I heard it had to do with more about training, that the EMS didn't have the exact same training as the fire department. So why aren't we, giving them the same training so they qualify as fire department personnel, and then end it like that? I mean, just make sure that everybody has the same training across the board.
All right, thank you, Mr. Eller. And Mayor Mouton, you do have 30 seconds as a final response.
Thank you. We do not have an emergency crisis. This problem is not unique to Beaumont. This is a problem across the board, across the United States. It has been going on for decades. So what we have implemented a hiring bonus for EMS, a $3,000 hiring bonus for EMS, and we've also have instituted a $5,000 hiring bonus for firemen. And hopefully that will attract new employers coming and applying for those positions.
Thank you, Mayor, for your reaction. Mr. West, this next one is for you. Now, you've indicated the city has been less than transparent with its drainage improvement plans, often offering vague responses like things are getting better and we're working on it. What would you do to get citizens a more accurate representation of the drainage challenges facing the city?
Well, I come from the business world, so accountability, respect, trust really means something, and sometimes when it comes to government, we roll our eyes when we talk about that. But if we're going to have true accountability, we need to show the information to everybody. And just because you spend tens of millions of dollars in government, you don't always get results from that. It is about efficiencies. It is about accountability. It's about showing what is to be done, in what timeline it is to be done, and how efficient we're doing that. Because if you don't keep track of all of that, as I found in business, you can have problems. And that is exactly where many problems come from. That's why some businesses go out of business. So cities need to be efficient, and they also need to follow their plans and timeline and report that to the public so that the council is aware and that the citizens are aware.
Okay, Mr. Eller, your thoughts on some of the drainage issues facing the city?
I've been out on calls before, and I've had to get TCEQ actually out on those calls because individuals aren't doing their job. Individuals aren't following the procedures. We already have procedures in the books for Beaumont. However, they're not following step by step, and then they leave the steps out or they don't follow through all the way. We need to address supervisors. We need to address city manager as well. Now we have a new city manager, but we need to make sure that all these individuals are held accountable for doing their job fully and make sure that all the people have the proper training. That's the only way to get infrastructure back up.
All right, thank you so much. Now, Mayor Mouton, your thoughts on drainage challenges facing the city?
We have approved one of the largest drainage budgets in the history of this city, which is over $100 million in drainage. We have approved $60 million in sewer, $24 million in streets, and $22 million in water. Saying all of that, we do have timelines. The timelines have started with the ditching program and some of the other streets and drainage projects. And so to say that we don't have a timeline, it's not true.
Okay, and I would return to Mr. West. Would you like to respond to any of that?
I would love to. And when we talk about these millions of dollars being spent, again, as a resident of Beaumont, are you experiencing this? Are you getting more information? Are you getting more transparency? Do you know when these projects are being done and when they can expect to be finished? Is that available on our website with the city? Transparency, respect, trust, they're real words. We need to show up as a city and be responsible and be more open and also improve our efficiency in all areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Get excited. The next question's also about drainage. There's more, right? Mr. Eller, this one first to you. So many spots in Beaumont tend to flood with even a little bit of rain, a couple of inches. What would you do to improve drainage, and do you believe our city is prepared for the next hurricane?
I really don't believe we are. Like I say, one thing that we keep on doing is not the efficiency of what we do. We've put in $1.9 million in street surfacing and also gutters in the Old Town area, yet Ashley Street always floods. So we added new gutters to add more water in. However, the vacuum trucks have to go out there and vacuum leaves because we didn't replace the drains. We didn't replace the pipes in the ground. We're doing things backwards. If we can proceed with actually removing lines and putting new lines in, I know it's costly, but we can't keep on adding, the drain hole if we're not going to replace the piping. It doesn't make any sense what we keep on doing, and we're doing it backwards.
All right, thank you, Mr. Eller. Now, Mayor Mouton, you've been at that position for a few years now. Your response on improving drainage in the city?
Well, again, as I say, we have implemented one of the largest street and drainage dollar amounts that have been approved. And just like Mr. Eller just stated, with leaves bin, there's a responsibility to the citizens. And a lot of times citizens are not really aware that when they are mowing their lawns and cleaning the streets or sweeping trash into the drainage, that causes a lot of problems. But we are working on that, and hopefully we will have all of that done by the end of 2024.
Mr. West, over to you. Same topic.
Well, I believe that certainly we have drainage issues because whenever we get heavy rains, many streets flood and have been for years. And I'm excited to hear that we're spending a lot of money, but again, I'm going to say spending a lot of money doesn't always solve problems. And we've spent money in the past. We need to have better accountability. We need to be able to see what work is going to be done, when's it going to be done, and so that we can experience these results and these millions of dollars that are being spent.
All right, thank you, Mr. West. And finally, back to you, Mr. Eller, on improving drainage.
Has anybody at home taken their wallet out of their back pocket and just thrown it in the toilet? That's basically what we're doing. Unless we get a cutter and start removing tree roots in these lines, we're not doing anything. It could be leaves that is blocking it up, but it's also being prevented by tree roots. So we have in older areas of town, we have nothing but oaks and bigger trees that get into the system. If we don't remove all that, if we don't address the issue, we're going to be constantly, repeatedly going back to the same issue to try and fix it, but we're throwing money away every single time.
All right, we thank each of our candidates for their response. Now, this next question is for you, Ms. Mouton. We've been repeatedly told not to worry if our drinking water turns brown. Public Works says it's still safe to drink, but people get upset when it happens. How big of a priority is the brown water problem for you? And what would you do to improve the drinking water quality here in Beaumont?
Well, right now we are implementing a chlorine dioxide manganese program. It has already begun. It is the start of a new program, which they are implementing as we speak. Also, it will take a while. Nobody wants brown water. I would not want brown water, and I don't think any citizen in the city want brown water. We are actively taking action towards that, and with this program, we will see a reduction in brown water. I will say that more recently, we have not had as many calls that we have had in the past, and so I can tell you that what we are doing is working at this time.
Mr. West, 30 seconds for you. Your thoughts on past challenges with brown water.
Well, I thought by flushing lines and others we were going to solve this problem, is what I was told in the past. So there continues to be new challenges, obviously, but we do need to find a solution, because when I travel to other cities, this isn't an experience that I have. And again, whenever you have brown water, that's not very appetizing. If it's sweet tea, that's fine. But brown water is not what we want to be bathing our kids in or drinking or cooking with. So we need to do better as a city.
Thank you, Mr. West. And Mr. Eller, your thoughts on brown water concerns?
This isn't a recent issue. This is a long-going issue, and we would think that by now, if we're hiring and we're saying that we have experts on it, that it would have been handled by now, or at least some of it. We have individuals that are browning their white clothes. Whenever they try and wash white clothes, it's definitely showing up there. If you read the results or what the chemicals or what the natural minerals does, for individuals with weakened immune systems, it can cause harm. So it's not completely harmless. So we need to really address it for those that really can't care for themselves fully.
As we return to Ms. Mouton, I would specifically ask about our question, are you comfortable with the city's quality of drinking water?
I am comfortable with the quality of our drinking water. It's tested. It's tested every day, and we have not had any problems with our drinking water recently. And so I would say I am very, very confident that we have a great drinking water.
Thank you. This next question came in after 12 News ran a story about kids committing crimes. Mr. West, this is for you. Juvenile crime seems to be on the rise. What can you do to keep kids on a better path?
Well, we certainly need a coalition for the youth because we have so many forgotten youth. And what does a coalition look like? Well, it means the city working with the school district, working with the university and LIT, working with the churches all across the city, working with the 501c3s that are already doing such great work across the city, but they all lack facilities, they all lack resources and additional personnel. We need to invest in our future. Our kids are our future. And when they don't have anything to do and they're out running the roads, they're inclined to get in trouble. And again, this is something we've seen across the country. In cities that have been effective in this, they have such programs. And this is a great way for our community to come together and work together and solve this problem.
And same question for you, Mr. Eller, on keeping kids on a better path. What would you do as mayor?
Being fully transparent, whenever I was young, I didn't have I wasn't the honor kid, I got in trouble, and I understand a little bit about what kids see and what they get into. I would love to see more pride brought back to kids. Like I say, more understanding on what the problems will lie. You catch a federal case, you catch a felony, you can't even rent an apartment. So we need to let them know the consequences of their actions. We need to drill it in their head, like I say, with DARE program, et cetera.
Thank you for sharing that. Mayor Mouton, over to you. Keeping kids on a better path. What are your thoughts?
Keeping kids on a better path. That's why we have implemented a youth council. We were able to take our youth council to Washington, D.C. And granted that it's not everyone in the city, but I would say taking that youth council to Washington, D.C., having them to sit in a conference and listening to the President of the United States, it is a start. In addition to that, I would like to implement more programs between BISD and the city, because we are implementing summer programs, a summer work program, and this summer we will also have a tutoring program. And I would like to implement bringing back Pop Warner football to our area.
Perfect. And then we'll send that question right back to you for a final response, Mr. West.
Well, we can certainly do a much better job, and I'm a business partner at 3 BISD schools, and if we can partner across this community and use what we already have and just enable them to be more effective by sharing the facilities. I know our city council and the mayor's been mayor 2 years and on council for 6 years. They've been silent on this issue, and this is an issue I've been talking about for a long time, because I understand if we're going to improve in Beaumont, we have to be better. We have to make such changes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your response. All right, Mr. Eller, you're up. 1 minute to respond to this question. Many people believe that Beaumont struggles to achieve greatness unless BISD turns things around. What would you do to help the district turn the corner?
I suggested this a while back that the city of Beaumont should also invest in BISD with school programs. Basically, you can't do for BISD and make them do anything, but you can offer them the chance to bid in on, let's say, signage, let's say projects like the high rescue water vehicles. You can have them actually work on it like a telecareer center. Like I said, put pride back in these kids and let them see what they actually produce each day. Let them brag to their parents, hey, look, Mom, I did that. I put in effort to this. I designed that. I built on that. I made this happen. If we can build back that pride of tradesmen, trades, I would love to have that whenever I was in school. That would have got me really invested back into the city.
Mayor Mouton, what would you do to support BISD's efforts?
Right now we are supporting BISD efforts. we are having quarterly joint meetings because we understand that this city cannot move forward, this city cannot grow unless we have a school district that is performing at a higher level. Often, Dr. Allen and I, we have met because we have to brainstorm to make sure that we have a high level school district. Because in order to bring industry in, we know that our school level has to be up to par.
Thank you, Mayor. And then Mr. West, 30 seconds, how would you support BISD?
Well, I've had the privilege of being a part of that support now for a number of years as a business partner, and I know the value of the future, our kids. And I am excited at the idea that the city will work with BISD, because that's not something I've seen in the past. And yes, there are quarterly meetings, but I don't ever see anything get done in those quarterly meetings. But it is so important that we invest in our youth and work with our kids and make sure that we have the programs that help meet their needs.
Thank you. And we'll go back to Mr. Eller, hearing their responses. Anything specific you would hone in on?
The council actually took down from quarterly meetings. They had the vote where it's going to be 2, but they can still vote. They can still meet more than 2 times. But they dropped it from 4 to actually 2 times the mandatory that they had to show up at BISD meetings. So they're actually pulling back from BISD at this moment. Is just how I saw that meeting. Like I said, I would love for us to actually give the opportunity for BISD to make bids on city projects and invest in the city.
Okay. Let's move to this next question. We'll direct it at Mayor Mouton. A viewer says, downtown Beaumont always seems to be the backdrop to many fun events like Neural Fest, Mardi Gras. But outside of these major events, downtown is like a ghost town. Is revitalizing downtown something that you view as a priority? And if so, what's your plan?
Absolutely. I do view downtown as a priority. You mentioned 2 of the biggest events that we have, but you also missed out on the fact that one of my priorities was to grow downtown Beaumont. And 4th of July is held downtown Beaumont. Juneteenth was moved to downtown Beaumont. And this Sunday, Spanish Heritage Festival will be held downtown Beaumont. So if we bring the events to downtown Beaumont, especially with Riverfront being revitalized, I know without a doubt that we're going to have a great downtown Beaumont. We have 3 brand new restaurants that are already permitted and that they are under construction. And so with those 3 new restaurants, it's just going to attract even more businesses to downtown Beaumont. And I look forward to the growth that is going to come to downtown Beaumont.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And Mr. West, on revitalizing downtown, is that a priority for you and any plans you see?
Well, when you talk about revitalizing downtown Beaumont, I am certainly for that. I'm about revitalizing all of the city, the north end, the south end, Old Town, and the west end. I feel like now when I visit across the city that so often the different parts of the city feel like they're competing against one another, and it creates resentment. And we need to work together to revitalize the whole city, and that is through strategic planning, that we all are rowing in the same boat and understand the direction we're going, and that we're not giving up anything in any other part of town.
Gotta leave it there. Thank you. Mr. Eller, your response to really getting things going downtown.
Like I say, I would love to see downtown blow up and be a great place, a great development. My grandmother used to walk those streets, used to visit those shops. I wish I could still experience or be able to experience something like that. I'm all about old historic and heritage of our city. However, we also have to address the owners of the buildings downtown and basically get them into compliance, because we can't grow 3 restaurants like, let's say, on Crockett Street and then right across the street have a burned up building. We have to address these for our city to grow.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eller. And back to you, Mayor Mouton. You mentioned earlier revitalizing downtown, bringing a Ferris wheel in. You talked about restaurants. 30 seconds to respond.
Well, I have been part of creating a downtown revitalization group of owners of all of the buildings in downtown Beaumont. Those business owners and building owners meet every month because we are looking at the opportunities of growing downtown Beaumont. Downtown Beaumont is the hub of any city. And so we're looking forward to seeing all of the growth that will come to downtown Beaumont with all of these businessmen and creating private public partnerships with those businesses.
Thank you. Final question in this debate round. What would you do to recruit and retain a talented workforce? And what role do you think diversifying the economy should have? Let's start with Mr. West.
Well, we already have a great workforce. We have Lamar University, we're a Division I college. We have LIT, we have Lamar State College, Port Arthur, and Orange. What we need to work on is retaining the talented workforce that we have being trained here in Beaumont. And all we need to do is show people that we care, that we start back investing in our community and showing up for them. And through the openness, through coalitions, that is how people know that you care. If we don't talk, and when we just talk about spending money, and we go to these meetings and we still hear about the same sewer problems, as well as brown water problems and drainage problems that we've had for so many years, you don't have the trust in what you're hearing from the city. We got to improve in all those areas. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Mayor Mouton, how would you respond to that on recruiting and retaining a talented workforce to Beaumont?
Well, I believe that once our talents see that they have a viable city in which we do to live in, and I believe wholeheartedly that Beaumont is a great city. It's a great place to live. And it's no sense in us having the talent and letting it leave. And I know without a doubt in the future of where Beaumont is going, that talent will stay in this city.
Mr. Eller, what would you do to recruit and retain a good workforce?
I love the city. The same pride that I take in the city, the same love that I have for the city, I want to push that for, like I say, students. I want to show pride and bring them aboard, basically, let them show ownership with the city. I really believe, because I do trades, so I really believe putting hands on things in the city by our students will retain those same students to show pride. That's the biggest thing with me is the pride of the city it starts with our children.
Thank you so much. Now, hearing those responses, Mr. West, will come back to you for a final response on recruiting and retaining a quality workforce.
Well, I appreciate how we're working with the universities now, but we need to work better with our school district and start younger to make sure, and I believe the school district is doing this, about all the different job opportunities that exist here in Beaumont and why it's an attractive place to be. But we have to, in fact, be attractive when we're doing that. And I love the city as well, but I know that we have real challenges, and I just want to address those challenges.
Thank you. Thank you to you all for really nice and thoughtful responses through this entire round. We're going to take another quick pause and continue the conversation live.
That's right. Coming up in just 2 minutes, our mayoral candidates are going to make their last push, asking for your vote. We'll be right back in just a few. All right, welcome back and thank you for sticking with us. We're going to get right into our lightning round. Candidates are going to have 15 seconds to respond to some getting to know you questions.
I think we have time for one. So here we go. If you're visiting somewhere and someone asks you about Beaumont, what is the one thing you would tell them about living here? Mayor Mouton.
I would tell them that Beaumont is a great city. Beaumont is a friendly city. We're a warm community. I would also tell them, please get out and get to Cattail Marsh. It's a beautiful scenery. It's a beautiful bird sanctuary.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. And Mr. Eller, living in Beaumont, what would you tell someone?
I could visit anywhere in Beaumont, or anywhere else in the state or the U.S., and I swear I wouldn't leave Beaumont for nothing. Beaumont is a calm, cool, and collective place. Regardless of all the problems that we may have or may not have, I still love it. I wouldn't go nowhere else.
Okay, and Mr. West, over to you. Living in Beaumont, what do you tell people?
Well, our biggest asset in Beaumont, Texas is our people, and we've demonstrated it many times from Harvey to our storms. We know how to show up for one another, and when we have more of these festivals, we show up together and have a great time.
All right, we are almost out of time. Thank you for sharing that about yourselves. We are going to now do our closing statements.
That's right. We're going to go in alphabetical order by last name. So, Mr. Eller, you go first.
I've been putting in the work for pretty much about 4 years now as a regular citizen, and regardless, even if I'm not your mayor, I'm still going to continue to do what I do every day. You can always count on me. You can always reach out to me one way or another. It doesn't matter. I just want you to be educated as a voter, to make sure that you have your representative. If it's me, if it's Mr. West, if it's Miss Mary Mouton, it doesn't matter. As long as you educate yourself and as long as you file grievances and hold the government accountable, do what you need to do as a citizen, because you need to be first always. That's what I hope.
You have a couple more seconds. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Mouton, over to you.
Well, to the audience, I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve as your mayor for just shy of 2 years. It has been my honor to serve as your mayor. I ran in 2021 on unifying our council, growing economic development in our city, and improving downtown Beaumont. All of those things have happened. Beaumont is on an upward momentum move. If you look around this city, we have so many new amenities, so many new things that are happening, and I am so excited about where Beaumont is going. I am #1 on the ballot, and I ask for your re-election as mayor of this great city. I would also like to say that I will not sit behind a desk in 4 walls to run this city. In order to get out and do all of the things that need to be done, you have to reach out abroad and go out and gain everything that you can gain for this great city to be what it needs to be.
Thank you so much, Mayor. All right, now, Mr. West, 1 minute, a last-ditch effort to voters.
Well, I love Beaumont. I was born here 62 years ago, and my wife and I have 5 adult children, 3 of which are married and live here in town. 6 of my 8 grandchildren live here. And this is a great city, and it's a great state. We've got millions of people moving to Texas every year, and yet we have a declining population right here in Beaumont. Is it because of our crime? Is it because of our sewage and brown water and because of our drainage problems? Or is it because of our firefighter shortage? It could be all of these reasons. We need to show up for one another, and we need to recognize that we have these real problems. And I haven't seen the improvement in the last 2 years, and that's why I'm running. But I do have the endorsement of the firefighters and paramedics and police. And I am excited about change and about the future, because we can revitalize this city, and it will be the city that we all want. Thank you very much.
All right, 1 minute to the dot. Thank you so much, Mr. West. Now, we want to thank all of our candidates. Jordan and I had a great time hearing your lively and important responses to this discussion that voters are going to be using as they head to the polls and make their decisions for a new mayor and, of course, a new city council.
Of course, early voting ongoing and an election day coming Saturday, May 6th, right? Yes. So we all look forward to making sure that we all get out and make our voices heard. If you missed any part of tonight's debate, you can stream it in its entirety on the 12 News Now YouTube channel. And of course, we will have much more on the debate coming up tonight on 12 News at 10 o'clock. So from all of us here at 12 News, I was going to say good night.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us.
Take care.